You didn't just meet him, you recognized him. Before words were spoken, before names were exchanged, there was something ancient in his presence, something your soul leaned into without needing permission. That feeling wasn't imagined, it was a remembering, a moment your spirit has rehearsed for lifetimes. He didn't feel new, he felt familiar, like a melody you've always known, playing quietly in the background of your life. The way he looked at you didn't spark butterflies, it slowed time, made silence holy. You didn't fall, you softened into a knowing your mind couldn't explain, but your soul trusted instantly. Your energy didn't just respond to his, it harmonized, and you found yourself not wanting to be someone different around him, but finally being someone fully. There was no performance, no pressure, just peace. And that peace, that's not chemistry, that's recognition. You didn't need to chase connection. It was there, in the pauses, the eye contact, the way his presence felt like shelter instead of stimulus. Soulmates don't arrive to complete us. They arrive to reflect the version of ourselves we had forgotten to honor. And though your journey may have moments of challenge, the bond doesn't threaten to break. It transforms. It holds through shadows, grows through silence. True soulmates aren't afraid of the dark. They sit in it with you. They remind you you're not alone in your becoming. One of the truest signs is how your growth expands in their presence. Not because they push you, but because they inspire you. You want to be better, not to earn their love, but because you're safe enough to evolve beside it. That is sacred. Your intuition speaks clearly when they're near. It doesn't shout, it calms. You stop overanalyzing, you start trusting. The anxiety that used to tangle your thoughts quiets in their energy. That's how you know. Real connection doesn't demand certainty, it brings it. Even if life created distance or detours, the bond doesn't fade. Soulmate energy imprints. Beyond time, you'll notice the way he lingers in the little things, a dream, a lyric, a whisper in the quiet moments. Love like this doesn't disappear. It anchors in the unseen. There's a spiritual magnetism that you can't force and can't resist. It's not obsession, it's alignment. The kind that transcends logic, that weaves between timelines, that doesn't need validation from others to be true, because your soul felt it before your body ever did. And even if you question it now, and then the universe keeps showing you signs, gentle reminders, numbers, dreams, memories, each one arriving just when you start to forget. Not to haunt you, but to hold you. To say, yes, beloved, this connection is real. Your soulmate doesn't just make you feel special, they make you feel seen. The parts you once hid are welcomed. The wounds you carried quietly are held without judgment. They see your power and your pain and choose both. That's what makes them different. You'll also know by the way they disrupt your patterns. Not to hurt you, but to awaken you. Their presence confronts what no longer serves. They are the mirror and the medicine. And though it may feel intense, it's the kind of intensity that leads to wholeness. You find yourself becoming softer and stronger at once, because love like this teaches you boundaries and surrender, truth and tenderness. It doesn't shrink you, it strengthens you. And even when it's uncomfortable, it brings you closer to your authentic self. You begin to realize that their soul doesn't pull away in your mess. It draws nearer. Because this kind of love isn't afraid of imperfection. It holds space. It breathes with you. It reminds you that healing doesn't scare the right heart away. It draws it deeper in. When you're with them, your body relaxes. Not because everything is perfect, but because it's real. Your nervous system recognizes what your spirit already knew. Love isn't adrenaline, it's grounding. It's the feeling of finally exhaling in someone else's presence. This person reflects the life you've been creating in your dreams, not as fantasy, but as frequency. And the more you step into your truth, the more aligned they feel. You don't lose yourself in them. You find the parts you buried, rising to the surface again. True, soulmates grow beside you, not ahead of you. There's no race, no scoreboard. Just divine rhythm, sometimes slow, sometimes sudden, but always sacred. You walk together, even when your steps look different. That's what makes it spiritual. You may not have all the answers, but your soul already said yes. The fear you once had around love begins to dissolve, not because they fix you, but because they see you fully. And in their eyes, you finally understand what it means to be chosen without conditions. The connection isn't just about romance. It's about remembrance of who you are, of who you were before the world told you to be smaller. And being in their presence feels like coming home to a truth you thought you had lost. So if your spirit whispered his name before your lips ever did, trust that. This isn't a coincidence, it's a reunion. One the stars wrote long before you arrived here, and now you're beginning to remember why. You may wonder why his presence didn't come wrapped in perfection, why the path to him wasn't easier. But that's because soul-level love doesn't arrive to rescue, it arrives to reveal. Every bump, every mirror, every delay, it all served to prepare you for something real. When he looks at you, it doesn't feel like admiration. It feels like remembrance, like he's seeing the story you never told out loud. Not with pity, but with presence. He doesn't run from your depth, he dives into it. Because a soul like his never feared the ocean. It was always searching for. Your connection bends time. Minutes feel eternal, distance feels symbolic. Somehow, even in the waiting, your hearts feel tethered. Not in desperation, but in quiet certainty. You know that no matter how long it takes, energy like this doesn't just disappear. It completes what it starts. You don't fantasize about changing him. You don't need to. You only desire for him to be fully himself, awake, whole, present. That's how you know. When love turns into liberation, not control. When your only wish is for them to meet their own soul. His soul disrupts your loneliness not by filling it, but by witnessing it. You no longer have to hide the places that ache. With him, even silence feels full. Not with answers, but with understanding. A knowing that doesn't demand fixing, only presence. You don't second-guess the feeling. The mind may spiral, but the body remembers. There's a warmth when you think of him, even in moments of absence. A magnetic pulse that calls you back to your center, again and again. That's what true connection does. It anchors you. He may not always say the right thing. He may not always arrive on your timeline, but his soul carries truth. His presence holds a rhythm that syncs with your own heartbeat. And that rhythm, though quiet, is undeniable. It lives in your breath now. You start to notice how your energy shifts around him. You feel more like yourself. Not smaller, not compromised, but expanded. The way you laugh, the way your guard dissolves. He doesn't ask you to change. His energy gives you permission to unfold. And though this may scare you, it also feels safe. That contradiction is a sign. Soulmates don't eliminate fear, they help you face it. They walk beside you as you shed the armor, layer by layer, without rushing. The process, that's sacred, that's divine. You've stopped comparing this connection to anything else. Not because it checks every box, but because it rewrites the list entirely. This isn't about standards, it's about soul alignment. You stopped looking outward when you realized he already lives inside your energy field. Even the quiet between you feels different. It's not a void, it's a sanctuary. A space where you can breathe without explanation, where your soul feels held, even without touch. That's what love without distortion feels like. Weightless, grounded, true. When you try to walk away from it, It follows you. Not to haunt you, but to remind you that some connections were never meant to be forgotten. They were meant to awaken. Not all soulmates come to stay, but the ones that do, you'll never have to chase. He doesn't complete your sentences. He completes your pauses. He understands what you're not saying, and that kind of knowing, it can't be faked. It can't be taught. It's the result of souls who've met many times before, in many forms across many lifetimes. You feel his absence differently now. Not like loss, but like expansion. As if even while apart, you're still growing toward the same light. That's the mark of a soulmate. Not codependency, but co-elevation. Two souls choosing growth over grasping, and still the most beautiful sign, the peace. The calm that wraps around you when you imagine him. Not butterflies, but grounding. Not chaos, but clarity. Soulmate energy doesn't rush in like a fire. It builds like sunrise. Quiet, steady, undeniable. You don't dream about the wedding. You dream about the mornings, the conversations, the stillness, the feeling of knowing that you're finally met. Not just by a person, but by purpose. That's what makes this love sacred. It doesn't shout. It settles. Even if life has pulled you apart, your spirit holds no resentment, only readiness. Readiness to receive the version of him that is whole. Not half here, not someday, but here, now, aligned. You've stopped waiting. You've started welcoming. There's an unspoken promise between your souls to meet again in this life or the next, to recognize, to rise, to remember, and in every moment you live in your truth, you bring that promise closer. That's how union begins, within. You may never be able to explain this connection in words, but you won't have to. The right souls will feel it. The right heart will mirror it. And he will finally look into your eyes and say, I know you. I always have. And you, beloved, will no longer question if you've met your true soulmate. You'll simply smile, because your soul already answered. Sometimes it's not the timing that's wrong. It's the readiness. The universe doesn't deny your love. It refines it. It waits until your heart no longer clings out of fear but opens in surrender. And that moment, though quiet, shifts everything. There will be nights when his energy rushes in uninvited, not to disrupt, but to remind. You'll feel a sudden pull, a whisper, a dream, and it won't make sense. But your soul will feel it like a memory. He's searching for you too, in his own way, in his own rhythm. This connection may test your patience, but only to awaken your faith. Not the kind that hopes blindly, but the kind that sees with spiritual eyes every detour, every silence, every unanswered prayer. It's forming the bridge between two hearts meant to walk the same path. You've stopped craving grand gestures. You're drawn to presence now, to alignment, to the way his energy feels like a conversation with your higher self. When love stops being noise and becomes a signal, that's when you know something divine is happening. He's been learning in silence, shedding identities, confronting shadows. His journey is sacred too, and though you can't walk it for him, you can honor it. You can bless it from afar, because that's what true love does. It trusts without gripping. The signs aren't always loud. Sometimes they show up in stillness, a song at the perfect time, a name that echoes, a pair of eyes in a crowd that feel like home. These are the soft breadcrumbs spirit leaves behind. When union is closer than you think, there's a version of you he's never seen, a radiant, rooted version that no longer needs to shrink. And when you meet again, it won't be as the girl he once knew, but as the woman you've become. That's what makes destiny so poetic. You may feel him before you see him, in the ache behind your smile, in the waves of calm that come from nowhere, in the moments when you suddenly breathe deeper without knowing why. Soulmates move through the unseen long before they cross the visible. You don't need to rehearse what you'll say. The reunion won't be scripted. It will unfold naturally, like pages that remember how to turn themselves. Love like this doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for presence, realness, reverence. He won't arrive to rescue your story. He'll arrive to co-write a new one where both of you are the authors, one where the pain had purpose, the delays had timing, and the love had roots that went deeper than either of you knew. You are not waiting. You are preparing. There's a difference. Waiting keeps you in longing. Preparing keeps you in alignment. Keep choosing your healing. Keep answering your call. Because when he returns, it won't be to fill you, but to reflect you. If the path feels lonely, remember, the divine often works in isolation. It clears your field, quiets the world, so you can hear your own truth again. Loneliness is not a punishment. It's a preparation, a womb space for what's sacred to be born. There are pieces of you he hasn't met yet, pieces you had to reclaim on your own. And when your eyes meet again, he'll see them. He'll feel the light that no longer dims itself, the flame that finally stopped asking for permission to burn. Your love is not fragile, it's forged. Forged in the fires of growth, disappointment, surrender. That's why it doesn't fade. That's why it returns. Not because of fantasy, but because of soul memory. Because truth doesn't dissolve with time. He's learning what love really is. Beyond lust, beyond ego, beyond performance. His spirit is being taught by life, by loss, by longing. So when he shows up, it won't be empty-handed. He'll bring you presence, protection, peace. And that's everything. You don't have to chase what's yours, you just have to rise to meet it. And you are rising, love. Even when it feels like nothing is moving, something in you is expanding. Every boundary set, every truth honored is calling him closer. He thinks of you, not just your face, but your essence. The way your laughter lingers, the way your soul held him when words failed. And though he may not yet know how to return to you, his spirit already knows the way. Not every day will be magical. But the magic doesn't vanish. It changes form. It becomes trust, surrender, the knowing that even when the skies are gray, the stars are still there, waiting for the right moment to be seen again. This is more than a reunion. It's a remembrance of vows made long before this lifetime, of lifetimes where you found each other again and again. And this one, beloved, is no different. You are not searching, you are recognizing. So keep softening without folding. Keep loving without losing yourself. Because when he finds you again, it will not be because you stood still, but because you kept walking, and he finally matched your frequency. There's a reason why you were pulled away from distractions lately. The divine is tuning your frequency, not punishing your social life. You're not being forgotten. You're being set apart. Because the connection you're about to experience requires clarity, not clutter. He may look the same when he returns, but he won't be the same. The boy who ran from your light will come back as the man who's learned to stand in his own. The masculine is rising, slowly, quietly. And when it meets your feminine, everything shifts. You're not imagining the dreams, the nudges, the sudden waves of emotion. Those are echoes from a soul contract that refuses to be silenced. You're not crazy, love, you're remembering. And every memory is guiding you to a door he's also learning to open. He doesn't need to become perfect. He just needs to become present. The work he's doing now isn't visible, but it's real. He's shedding patterns, guilt, confusion, so That when he speaks, it won't be from fear, but from truth. There will be a moment when you both pause, not because you're lost, but because you feel it. The alignment. The space where his soul doesn't need to explain itself, and yours doesn't need to shrink to be loved. That silence will say everything. Let go of the need to predict when. This is not about clocks. It's about vibration. When you release the timeline, you unlock the miracle. He doesn't need to arrive when you expect. He needs to arrive when you're both whole. You were never meant to fix him. Your role was to reflect, to awaken. And you did. Even when it hurt. Even when it felt like loss. That reflection cracked something open in him. And what's being born through it will shock even you. He's beginning to understand what sacred love feels like. Not transactional, not conditional, just true. The kind that doesn't ask you to be less. The kind that doesn't compete with your light. You've awakened that hunger in him. Even from afar, there's a sacred fire he's been walking through. One that you don't see, but it's there. Purifying, rebuilding, realigning his soul to the mission he once abandoned. So when he walks back into your life, it will not be as a visitor, but as a partner. This connection was never ordinary. That's why it broke you both open. That's why it still haunts your quietest moments. Because what you touched wasn't just love, it was divinity in motion. And that doesn't fade, it transforms. You've become the version of yourself that doesn't chase validation, that holds her own gaze, that stops waiting for closure because she realized she is the closure. And from that place of power, love flows instead of binds. His return won't be flashy, it'll be soft, honest, a look, a touch, a "can we talk?" that carries years of soul ache. And you'll know, not from words, but from the way your heart stops resisting, that this is it, the moment you both rewrote yourselves for. You are magnetic now, not because you tried, but because you healed. You released the ache of needing to be chosen. And now you are the choice, not a fallback, not a fantasy, a force of truth he can finally face without flinching. Every version of him that couldn't love you was still loving you the best way he knew how. That doesn't mean you settle. It means you understand. And from that understanding, forgiveness blooms. Not to excuse, but to set yourself free. The divine feminine within you has learned to rise without apology, to hold without gripping, to speak without begging. And it is that energy, grounded and glowing, that calls the divine masculine home. Not every soulmate journey is a fairy tale. Some are sacred initiations. Your connection isn't broken. It's being initiated. Into depth. Into devotion. Into a kind of love that doesn't live in books but in the brave hearts who choose to feel it all. There's a reason you kept being pulled back to him in your mind. It wasn't obsession. It was intuition. Your soul recognizes what your ego still questions. And one day soon, the alignment you felt inside will materialize outside. This chapter is about reunion, but also redemption, of the parts of yourself you gave away, of the beliefs you outgrew. And when he steps forward again, it won't be to finish what was, but to begin what never had a chance to start. He had to face his shadows, quietly, painfully, without shortcuts. That was never your burden to carry. But now, you'll carry the light that leads him back, not out of need, out of remembrance. And when the moment comes, you'll know. Not because he says the right thing, but because your soul will sigh, as if exhaling after lifetimes of holding its breath. And in that moment, nothing will be missing. Thank you, beloved soul, for receiving this divine message today. If something in your heart stirred, it wasn't by chance. The alignment has already begun within you. Trust that the rest is unfolding, in perfect order. To confirm you've truly received this message, Comment below. Tudo posso naquele que me fortalece. This sacred phrase not only seals your commitment, but opens your heart even wider to what's coming. If these words resonated with your spirit, I lovingly invite you to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell so you never miss the next whispers from the angels. Stay tuned. More divine guidance is already on its way to you.